before you cut at the end,
Right.
that's Melissa with her
Right.
hands.
Okay. Okay, I'm talking to is it Sister Soldier or Soul Sister? Come on.
It's Soul Sister.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm talking to Melissa. Introduce you. Who are you?
Djsoulsister from New Orleans.
Well, nice talking to you. What does funk mean to you?
Well, funk is a way of life, but in terms of music, it's the syncopation. It comes from New Orleans, and it's got to have that serious bass line, something that makes you put your hips into it. And, some, well, it, I love a lot of horns being from New Orleans, but the funk is not just horn bass. It can have some synthesizer. It's got to have that bass line, though, for real, for real. That's, to me, the essence of funk.
So if the bass ain't booming, it ain't funky.
If there's no bass line to make you put your hips into it, then it's not funk to me.
So what bands represent funk to you?
Well, wow. As far as bands that, everybody, a lot of people would know, Parliament, Funkadelic, Kool and the Gang, especially that early to mid 70s, and I'll even go into the late 70s for Kool and the Gang. Of course, James Brown as the Godfather of Soul. A lot of people, stay away from mid to late 70s, but I think there's a lot of stuff there in terms of pure funk power and his bands with the JBs. Of course, our New Orleans sound, the Meters. You had Chocolate Milk, Eddie Bow. You had so many groups, the Baptiste Brothers.
Talk about New Orleans. I mean, people say that the root of funk is in the rhythm we associate with funk comes out of New Orleans. Do you believe that that's true?
It's definitely true.
Talk about why that is.
Well, the root of all of the music comes out of New Orleans, but because, you have the serious sounds from jazz and early rock and roll coming out of New Orleans, and the tradition of dance in New Orleans. There's nowhere else to go but the funk, especially with the second lines and the rhythms of New Orleans. You mix that with the jazz sound and rhythm and blues, and you have the funk. That's why everybody wanted to copy the Meters sound when they came out in the late 1960s.
So the Meters embody the New Orleans sound of funk.
For a lot of people, yes, for that period in the late 60s when James Brown and, the soul music was sort of morphing, Sly Stone was changing everything. For New Orleans, the Meters is a cornerstone of funk music and the funk movement.
But that's not the only funk that came out of New Orleans.
Oh, gosh, no. No way. No way.
So tell me, for example, you mentioned, what are the Wild Chapatulas playing to this?
Oh my gosh. Well, that's the Mardi Gras Indians. Now, the Mardi Gras Indians, that's a cultural part of New Orleans that goes back, it's outside of music, that is a tradition in New Orleans where on Mardi Gras Day, the Mardi Gras Indian gangs and tribes, the African Americans, they have their costumes, ornate beads and feathers, and they sew all year round, and then you come out on Mardi Gras Day. In the late 60s, something interesting happened. I might even say 1970, where you got an electric band mixed with the Mardi Gras Indians, and that started the Mardi Gras Indian funk sound, and that was the Wild Magnolias. And Honda Wanda Part 1 was one. I believe that was the very first one that came out. It was produced by Quint Davis, who is in charge of the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival. And
so Honda Wanda is an essential. Talk about Honda Wanda. What does Honda Wanda sound like?
Well, that is a chant. But then when you put it with the electric band, which was the Gators with Willie T, and on bass, I hope I'm not calling it correctly. I want to say George Porter Jr. Well, I don't want to say that, but I do know for a fact that the Gators with the Wild Magnolias were a cornerstone in mixing electric music with the Mardi Gras Indians, which, prior to that, I mean, it's just percussion. There's
Right.
no band
Right.
with that. And then there was an album that came out on Polydor Records in '74, the Wild Magnolias full album,
Right.
and the Wild Chapatulas, that came out of the Neville Brothers.
Right. Now that's what I remember. The Wild Chapatulas were. I mean, the Neville Brothers. Okay, the Meters. What is the significance of the Neville Brothers in vis-a-vis funk?
Well, you know what? Actually, the Wild Chapatulas came out of the Meters, but from what I understand, the Neville Brothers as a project was born out of that Wild Chapatulas album.
Okay.
So the Meters, without the Meters, you wouldn't have had the Neville Brothers. The bridge between those two is that Wild Chapatulas album.
If someone says, there's a second line rhythm of New Orleans, what records embody that we can hear that are funk based that tap into that?
Can we wait till the sirens over?
Yes, absolutely.